Habeas corpus, habeas corpus, habeas corpus. It sounds like something we chant and something happens somewhere that's really cool. Maybe a genie comes out of a bottle. But what habeas corpus is, it's an old Latin phrase, and I gotta be honest with you, I am so excited to talk about it because I labored away for years in high school and college learning Latin. I said to my parents, I will never use Latin. This is stupid. And they said, yes, you will. And I said, no, I won't. And here it is. The first time hold on a second. How old am I?
38.
All right, thanks. So for the first time in my 38 years, I get to say Latin has finally paid off. Because instead of learning a language that, would help me communicate with people actually living on this earth, like when I go to Mexico or Spain or France, God forbid I learn an actual communication skill. I couldn't roll my R's, that's why I wouldn't do it. For once in my life, I'm able to use this dead language that no one speaks and prove to you that it mattered. So, habeas corpus translates to something like bring me the body. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't that great in Latin, but that is about what it means. And habeas corpus is really, really important. So if I've done my job, which is reel you in those first however many seconds, stick with me because this stuff really matters. I made a video a couple weeks ago about due process. It's probably the most important video I ever made. Truly, without due process, we don't have the rule of law. Due process is the procedure we have to make sure that the government is following the law. What due process allows is us to have a hearing and say to the judge, the government says this and this are true. We dispute that, judge, figure it out, either let me go or send me back to jail. Habeas corpus is kind of like the first step of that. And the idea is someone who's being held in prison or jail will petition the court for habeas corpus, for their body to be brought in front of the judge. They're asking for a due process hearing. Habeas corpus is the mechanism that gives you the right to your due process hearing. If you have habeas corpus, but not due process, you get brought to court, nothing happens, you go home. You have due process, but you can't get there, you don't have the habeas corpus, you don't get what you need. So is habeas corpus something that's been buried like Roman ruins in Rome and just been dug up now? It's a good line. No, it's been extremely important forever. I'll give you a really good example when habeas corpus was used. You might not like it, but this is how our system works. After September 11th, the United States built a prison to house detainees on Guantanamo Bay. The reason they built the prison there is because it was outside the jurisdiction of the United States. That led to the then administration giving the okay for enhanced interrogation, also known as torture.
Do you believe that the previous administration sanctioned torture?
I do believe that it is torture.
To supposedly be able to get more information from the detainees. You're wondering, why do I keep saying detainees? Because these people were not arrested and charged with a crime. They were taken from wherever they were across the world. They were brought to Guantanamo Bay and they were detained there without being charged with any crime. Now, hear me now. Hear me now, as someone who grew up a mile or so from New York City and has strong feelings about 9/11 and what happened. I'm not telling you that I don't support a strong response to September 11th. What I'm telling you, though, in this aside, is that we did things that were illegal, that were against our laws. Where habeas corpus comes in is those detainees were able to petition the government and say, I have a right to habeas corpus. I am being held by the US government and I want to be in front of a judge because I'm not charged with a crime. And if I am charged with a crime, then I want my day in court. Now, a lot of you are probably going to have strong feelings about whether someone who is a suspected terrorist, because they were suspected terrorists, whether they have these rights. I would respectfully suggest that when the United States goes to someone else's country and takes that person and brings them to a place that essentially is our country, that we've made our own, although it's in an island right off Miami, those people have rights. Basic minimum right that they have is to be in front of a judge and tell their story. Whether their story is good, bad, believable, lies, whatever, they should have a right to tell their story, and they did have that right. The US Supreme Court said that detainees at Guantanamo Bay had the ability, through habeas corpus, to have a hearing and to get due process. Depending on your age, you might not remember what the world was like before September 11th and after September 11th. After September 11th, the United States went to war in the Middle East, and we were under attack domestically. Shortly after September 11th, there were other plots to bomb our country or cause great harm, whether it was the New York subway system, the shoe bomber, and other plots all across the country. The threats remained very, very real for a very long time. So we were living in a very new and dangerous world to us. Today, the United States is not at war, and we have not had a foreign terrorist attack in years. Domestic attacks, different story. I give you that framework for what the country was like then versus what it is now, because even back then, we still allowed habeas corpus to exist. It's only been suspended a few times in history. Nevertheless, the President of the United States is currently considering suspending habeas corpus, an absolutely radical thing. And the reason the administration says that they might suspend habeas corpus is if the courts slow the deportations down that they want to make so badly. And if the courts slow it down, then they're just going to cut the courts out of it.
The courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. The courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too.
So much for checks and balances. Look, if we need to deport someone because they're here and they're unsafe, they're committing crimes, or for whatever reason, I get it. Give the person a day in court. Bring the body to court. Let's have habeas corpus and then a due process hearing. If courts are doing too good of a job of giving people their day in court and letting them prove that the government isn't being honest, or what the government is trying to do isn't the right thing under the law, if the courts are so successful at rooting that out and giving people justice that the administration is saying, well, we just won't go to the courts, that is a problem. The stupid part is the Homeland Security Secretary, the person who leads Homeland Security, was asked at a hearing, what is habeas corpus? Now, look, you ask that EPA guy, Sean Donahue, what is habeas corpus? Bro has no idea, but look, he's there about like air and plants and animals. Cool. Probably doesn't even know what a tiger is. Probably doesn't even know what a liger is. It's a lion and a tiger mix known for its mythical powers. It's my favorite animal.
But for its skills and magic.
But here's Kristi Noem in charge of Homeland Security, which is in charge of ICE, not knowing what habeas corpus is.
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country.
No, ma'am, it is not. No, ma'am, it is not. Maybe we should remove you from the country.